Welcome to The Definitive Wrap, where we report the truth about American exceptionalism. We love our flag, we love our country, and we believe in America. The Definitive Wrap, where we respect people of faith, the men and women in blue, and our support for Israel. And now, your host, Bela Seabrow on The Definitive Wrap.
Hello, and welcome to The Definitive Wrap. I am Bela Seabrow. Thank you to Five Towns Central for hosting this show. In the aftermath of terrorist attacks in Israel, we have viewed over the years how a group of Jews are seen wiping lifeblood off surfaces with great respect and, unfortunately, at times collecting parts of human remains. These holy people are volunteers of an organization called ZAKA. ZAKA was founded and is Israel's dominant non-government rescue and recovery organization with over 3,000 volunteers deployed around the country on call 24/7 to respond to any terror attack, disaster, or accident immediately, professionally, and with the necessary equipment. ZAKA deals with incidents of unnatural death, and they work in close cooperation with all the emergency services and security forces. Honoring the dead is considered an act of chesed shel emes, true virtue. In Judaism, this is considered the greatest mitzvah, a good deed that can be performed because the recipient has no way of repaying the kindness. ZAKA is the Hebrew acronym for Disaster Victim Identification and has become an official volunteer organization in 1995. They have grown organically over the last 2 decades, finding the best solutions to the operational needs as the scope of the volunteering work increases. ZAKA is also a search and rescue UN-recognized humanitarian volunteer organization that provides rapid response to mass casualty disasters around the world. ZAKA has saved thousands of lives and honors those that cannot be saved with dignity in death. In the aftermath of October 7th, ZAKA volunteers have joined in the effort from all over, and what they have experienced and witnessed was so horrific that it's beyond anyone human. No, the comprehension of a human being cannot possibly even imagine what took place October 7th and what ZAKA volunteers had to witness. Today's guest is Isaac Stern, a Lawrence, New York resident. He is a man who ran to Israel to help ZAKA find and identify the victims of the October 7th massacre. He constantly races out to assist in search and rescue missions. He belongs to RNSB as one of the heads of the search and rescue teams. Where help is needed, Isaac steps in. Isaac is a crisis chaplain and a member of CSE, Chesed Shel Emes. And he also went to Surfside, Florida to search for bodies in the Champlain Towers collapse. Isaac is a mediator, a life coach, and in areas of interpersonal relationships for individuals as well as for couples for marriage and family therapy. Isaac also works in real estate and is a financial consultant. Most importantly, Isaac is a devoted and loving husband, father, stepfather, and an exemplary member of the Jewish community. Isaac, it gives me tremendous honor to welcome you to The Definitive Wrap.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you for the holy work that you do and for all that you have done. You are one of the unsung heroes. How did you first become affiliated with ZAKA?
So I originally did a lot of Chesed Shel Emes work, especially during COVID. There was a lot of help needed with burials and removal of bodies. You know, people were scared to go near bodies like that. I got very involved during COVID. And, you know, ever since then, I've been really, really involved with that. You know, when the Champlain Towers went down, I went there, and I've been to many other states for different search and rescue operations. You know, it's something I'm good at. It's something that I like to do, and it's not for everybody. So if I could
Right,
do it, I'd like to help.
right, right. So, you know, take us back to October 7th. Where were you on October 7th?
October 7th, I was in shul, and my radio went off and my phone went off.
So
um,
you carry a phone with you, radio at all times.
at all times, 24/7, 365.
Because for what reason do you carry it?
Because I'm one of the heads of search and rescue, there's
Okay.
missing people all the time, and
Okay.
it doesn't matter, Shabbos, Yontif,
Right. No, of course. Yeah.
and so we're always on call.
Okay.
We were notified right away that from a security point, the Israel's been attacked, and people should just be very vigilant.
hmm
Um, in their surroundings they're scared of copycats or things like that.
So, meaning even outside of Israel, there
Yeah,
was
yeah,
fear all over.
all over,
Okay.
all over the United States. The police department stepped up with security right away on October
Uh-huh.
7th.
Right.
Um, and like the rest of us, we were all in shock, and
Yes.
it was a very bittersweet time. Bit sweet a little bit because it was Simchas Torah, but
Right.
it was hard to enjoy it because it was during war and so many mass casualties and horrific stories were coming out.
hmm
As soon as Yenta was over, you know, I heard ZAKA was very much involved from the get-go. I mean, they got there literally during the massacre, even. Um, they probably got there, that same day,
hmm
probably, they left like shul like 9 a.m., let's say, and they
Right.
took them hours to get there. Um,
Wow.
and I reached out to someone who I know there in ZAKA, and after a day or two, and I said, "How you guys doing? How you guys holding up?" And he started crying. He's like, "This is, it's too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
We need help. We need help from people, moral support, actual
hmm
physical support, manpower." A lot of the people who went right away couldn't go back after a day or two. A lot of them just went home, and they couldn't live normally. Some had nervous breakdowns, some just couldn't handle it. So right away, I reached out to a couple of friends who I do this Chesed Shlemus work with. Some from Shomrim, from RNSP, some from Chesed Shlemus, and I said, are you guys ready to go and help? And right away they said yes, 100%.
So,
Spoke
how
to
did you make the connection to get to Israel? Was did you have difficulty getting a flight, or that was arranged for you?
So it was actually everything was worked out. People stepped in to help out to get us
Right.
flights, and the chesed was unbelievable. I mean, people were like,
Yeah. Yeah.
"Go!" Someone said, "I have an apartment in Israel. Stay there.
Oh.
Um,
hmm
you know, we'll take care of everything for you. Just go." And there was a lot of soldiers going, who were going to reservists from the U.S. And we were able to get in a flight right away on one of those flights. And about a week after October 7th, we went, and the work was far, far, far from over. I mean,
So once you got to Israel, how did you know where to go, where to start?
the first thing we did, we got to Israel, we rented a car, we drove straight to have a meeting with ZAKA right away.
Okay. Where is ZAKA based?
So
Where's
they
their
have
headquarters?
offices in Yerushalayim and Tel Aviv and different places, but the way ZAKA worked, every day that they worked, at the end of the day, they had a mandatory get together at
hmm
night.
Was this in person or
In
via
person.
Zoom? In person.
In person, they all came together.
Right.
They had a dinner where they ate, sang, cried,
Yeah.
whatever they needed. It was a mandatory thing that they made all the members do,
Uh-huh.
um, to be able to process the day.
Yeah.
So we went straight to one of those barbecues. It was
hmm
actually by the hotel.
Uh-huh.
It was on top by one of the apartments,
Right.
and there was some singers there. Yonatan Razel was there, and there was Isha Ribo, and
Oh
you have
wow.
people talking, trying to process. You have people singing, crying,
hmm
all sorts of processing going on. We met with them, and we said we're ready to go. Like, let's get to work. We're here.
Yes.
We're here for a week. let's get this, let put us to good use.
So where was the first place they sent you?
So they said, let's meet up tomorrow morning, 5 a.m., and let's head down south to the Gaza border. They said that the communities there, the houses haven't been touched, meaning when during under fire, the first few days, they pulled out all the bodies they can.
Oh my gosh.
But they couldn't, it was a mess in there. There was still body parts, still blood, still body tissue. I mean, I don't know if I'm getting too graphic, you tell me.
You know
But
what, Isaac? I know this will be dredging up horrible memories, but the world needs to know. There are so many deniers of these atrocities that the media and people all over need to hear firsthand accounts from those who witnessed what happened. So please share with us. I'm sorry. Again, I apologize
no,
for
it's
the memories
okay.
this is
It's
dredging
okay.
up, but this could never be forgotten. People need to know.
So we went there back to those houses. Now we couldn't go in right
Where,
away
where,
because
which, where did you go?
so we started off the first we went to Kisufim, we went to Be'eri, we
Okay.
went to a few other kibbutzim. The first one we got to was Kisufim. We couldn't go into the houses right away. So first, of course, we met at 5 a.m. We drove up. When we got closer to the border, we had to meet up with the army. They
Mm,
had to drive us in because there was still gunfire going on. There was still rockets flying.
yeah,
They gave us bulletproof vests, bulletproof helmets.
sure.
Um, and we went up there. As you're driving up closer and closer, you smell death. I mean, there's no. It's so bad and so it's horrific. You just smell it in the area. You smell dead bodies.
Oh my God.
Got to the kibbutz. The army was with us. They had to go through each house quickly before to see if there was any grenades left there that were possibly could go off.
Oh yeah.
So they had to clear the house. So they were there already before we got there, and they were clearing house to house,
Right.
just to make sure there's no live grenades or any ammunition that could explode.
Right.
Because again,
And
those houses were pull the people out,
so
close up.
the people who were alive were already taken out at that point.
People were alive taken out, and the people that were dead were also taken out. I mean, mostly as many
Right.
as they could.
Right.
Unfortunately, they found more people later, underneath the rubble, and
Yes. Yes.
and unfortunately, sometimes they didn't find people; they just found ashes. It
Yes.
was horrific. So we get there, we put on our protective gear, and once the house was cleared, we went in there, and we had to. I mean, you literally walk into these apartments, and there's still some eggs on the stove that they were cooking or having. It was like kids' toys, and
Oh.
they were just middle of living,
Yes.
and
Yes.
when you walk in, it's just horrendous. A lot of these houses had grenades in them. So they threw a grenade in and it exploded the whole house. So there's holes all over, and there's blood and guts everywhere.
Oh my gosh.
Because when it explodes, it goes everywhere. It goes on top of the walls, and
Oh my God.
it was everywhere. And on the floor, there's just you don't even know what it was. It was just insides of bodies. I mean, it was horrific because they tortured them in the houses. It was a horrific scene. I thank God that I wasn't there the day of when they had to witness the literal bodies and how they were so desecrated and torn apart and maimed, and it was unreal. And we were sitting there cleaning up loads and loads of blood, a lot of body tissue, skin here. I mean, so many bodies fell apart. They only able to grab some of it. Um, so we went house to house and literally made sure to clean up everything from top to bottom. We had a team in there together with the Israeli guys, together with our guys, and every single dot of blood we cleaned. We had special chemicals and materials to get it off the walls, the ceilings, the beds, the toys. Some toys we couldn't clean. Some kids' clothing we couldn't clean. We had to bury it because it was too soaked in blood.
So in other words, according to Jewish law, just for our audience that
Yeah,
may not
everything
know
we
the
believe that
the
everything has to be
halacha, the
buried.
Jewish law. So in other words, anything that has live blood has to be buried.
Anything that was part of the human being when he was killed has to be buried with them.
Right.
Now, sometimes we don't know who it is, so they did a mass burial for all the, they didn't know which person in the family. If they knew who it was, they put it with them. Otherwise, they did a mass burial for all these um, different bloods and body parts that were found. They tried to, of course, match it up.
Right.
Um, we found a little skull in the back of a seat of a car.
Oh my
It
gosh.
was horrific. Of course, that we sent back to the lab to find out whose it is and um, put that with the body. Um,
You mean the body was not attached to that skull?
no, I guess yeah. There was a lot of bodies that they collected that were just torsos or just heads or just feet or just. I mean, they did horrific stuff to these people. They chopped them up. They mixed them up. They stuck things through them. They did the most horrific things. I mean, it's 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 not something you could process. It's
No,
something that's
no,
so
no.
inhumane that you could only process a certain amount of the trauma. Other parts of it are just there's no room, there's no place to
Right.
process it. It's just
Right.
it's just too inhumane and too you can't even call them animals because animals wouldn't do something like that. Yeah,
No, no. Animals wouldn't do that.
right. I mean, it was horrific. So we went house to house and every 15 20 minutes we had to run into the family shelter room um, because they were shooting rockets at us from Gaza. You have to understand, Gaza is like 2,000 feet from there. So,
Right,
like
right, right.
a lot of these kibbutzim, they are actually on the border. They have the border fence.
Yes.
It's like a field in between. So
Uh-huh.
we have 5 seconds. They shoot. We have 5 seconds to find shelter. So if we're close enough to a shelter, we run in it. If not, we lie down on the floor and cover our head,
Cover your heads.
cover the neck because you don't want it hitting your neck. So you put your hands over your neck. Your head's already protected from the helmet, and
Uh-huh.
your back has the bulletproof vest, and you're hoping your feet won't get. And
Ah,
sometimes the rockets exploded right over our heads with the Iron Dome, and literally we were just going like this, hoping that not to get hit from any of the you know projectiles that came out of it or any. And it was the first few times it was really scary, and then we kind of got used to having to run to shelters.
in other words, the abnormal became
Yeah,
normal.
became normal. And
What
one of the
was
houses,
going through what was going through your mind as you were collecting the bodies and at the same time trying to keep yourself safe? What was going through your mind at the time?
what was going through my mind is I'm doing something sacred for these neshamos, for these souls.
Right.
You know, I couldn't go deep into what exactly happened because
Right.
that
That you
debilitates
weren't
you.
you weren't there. You did not have
Yeah,
that kind of mindset. So it
like
was
my
almost
goal.
like it became mechanical for you,
Yeah,
right?
my goal was to. I connected. I went to the house. I looked at the pictures in the house. Looked at the people I'll be working with, and my goal was I want to bring them to full peace.
Yes. Yes.
And then I was just on a mission to do that, and that's what kept
Yes.
me going from house to house, car to car, backyard to backyard, um, and we did that all day. We worked from we're up at 5 a.m. We worked till about 5 p.m. and
Did you get any breaks in between?
we took a break for lunch. Some of us ate, some of us didn't.
Right.
You know,
Right.
um, but the work it was very very hot there, and we were wearing all this clothing, and also we we're
Oh
wearing stuff
yeah.
on top of it. We were dripping like it was. But you know what? It was you just had one job and one
One
goal.
job. But you didn't even you probably didn't even feel it at some
No,
points.
you didn't
Yeah.
even feel it. At
Yeah.
the end of the day, you felt it. When
Right.
you're on your way home. And we did that every day. We went home. We had that. kumsitz,
Right.
that processing, and the next
Yes.
morning again, 5 a.m. We did this for a week straight.
So you were there for a full week.
Yeah, and we went, every day. One day we just did the cars. There was thousands of cars, and we had to go. I don't know if it's thousands, but there was probably a
Yeah.
thousand cars. I mean,
Yeah.
and a lot of those cars were. We had to literally take them apart. We had to cut off the ceilings and the seats and the steering wheel and the vents, pull out the vents
Because of the blood and body parts.
that flew into it. Yeah,
Yeah.
and we had to. There was actually one area where all the burnt cars were. The bodies were still in it, so they had a forensic team carefully removing them and putting them into evidence. Um, and anything we found, we brought to them to take to evidence. Anything that was just, nothing that could be, just the blood and the skin tissue and everything that we just took and we buried.
Oh
And
my
it was just
gosh.
horrible. Some cars were blown up. Some cars just had two bullet holes in them. Some of them had grenades in them with holes everywhere. I mean, it was horrific. It was horrific. Um,
Did they send you to the Nova Festival site?
yes, we went to the Nova Festival site. We didn't do any work there. The reason for that is because that night the army gave the members I was with the members that were there that night. They said, we'll protect you from midnight till like 4 a.m. because there's still thousands of them running around.
Right.
And they were given a job to remove hundreds of bodies from the site. And they don't know how they did it. They couldn't see anything, but they somehow got all the bodies out. Anything that was left was already buried because the blood went into the ground, and that's already considered buried. And anything else that they were in was, they took it, I don't know. They actually brought it to New York at some point. They had they had a Nova exhibit, which was horrific for me. I went, but it was very traumatic for me to go there and see that. But the site was, unfortunately, yeah, we went to see it. There was a rocket when we went there. There was a rocket on fire. Some rockets fall in open areas, and
Right.
they don't
Right.
waste the Iron Dome in them.
Right.
And one of the kibbutzim that we were in the middle of cleaning, we heard the soldiers screaming. There was a terrorist, and we locked ourselves in the house, and we just heard gunfire for a while, for like 10, 15 minutes, a shootout until they finally killed him.
Right.
So it was pretty terrifying.
Of course.
It was pretty terrifying work.
Were you in touch with your family
Yeah,
during all this? Yeah.
yeah. I called my family every day just to touch base, see how they're doing. Of course, didn't share much of it with them, um, but they knew what I was doing.
What was it like for them knowing that you're in dangerous territory?
It was scary for them. I made sure to ask a Rav, if it's okay to go. Am I putting myself in danger? And he said that if you're going to do that work, you'll be protected. So I went and I told my family I'm going with a blessing that we're doing holy work, so God will protect us. And I don't think I don't, not that I know, but I don't think any ZAKA member got killed in an entire, process.
Right. Right. Well, God definitely protected you and the other members. At what point was Zaka's work no longer needed in those murder sites?
It took a few months. You have to understand, each kibbutz has a few hundred homes, and you got to go, and every house that was had people who died in it had to be literally not just quick in and out had to be cleaned to the every drop of blood. We had a chemical that we sprayed on the floor that told us if there's still blood there, even though it looked clean to the naked eye,
Oh, I see.
because the chemical reacted to the blood.
Uh-huh.
You just scrub and scrub and scrub until you had everything, and house to house, outside, backyard, and they had to go from kibbutz to kibbutz, and there was so many to go to. There was the police stations, there was in Sderot, there was, I mean, there was Kfar Aza, and um, there was so many, there was so many kibbutzim there that were hurt, and it took so much time. And also, as they were doing it, more and more members, you know, they lost a lot of good members psychologically uh,
Really?
because they couldn't continue. One of the guys that I was that I in the middle of the third day that I was there, one of the head guys actually came out of a coma. He was in a coma because he had a heart attack from doing the work.
Oh my
He was
goodness.
there from day one, and as soon as he came out of the hospital, he said, "I'm going back." He came
Wow.
from the hospital and came back to down south to finish a job. He says, "I'm not stopping until I'm finished. I don't care if I have another heart attack. I'm have a mission, and I'm not stopping until
Yes,
it's done." And it took them a few months to get to everything and to go through everything and to,
of course. Yeah.
it was a tremendous amount of work.
And so after a week, you came home.
Yeah, I wish I could have stayed longer because I felt this was such holy work and it was important. But we took off a week. That's what we were able to do. Um, we came home and it was time to process. I made sure to go see somebody and to work through the traumas. Um, I know a lot of the members that were there in the beginning couldn't even, because of the stuff they saw, they wouldn't even touch their wife or children. They were so traumatized by so much death, and that, they really have it hard. A lot of them right now, I mean, the big fundraisings that are happening now, I think actually I saw you did something.
Yeah, I actually did a fundraiser
Are to
on
help these
the
people.
Hebrew Yard side. Yeah.
They need a lot of mental health help,
Yes.
a lot of therapy, a lot of,
I understand they opened up a separate mental health clinic.
yeah. They were going to all the different people before, different people volunteering. Some people volunteering their time. A lot of them, they had to pay people, but you know, a lot of the money at first went to for them to do their work and to buy supplies because the supplies were running out. Like they used all the supplies they had like in a
Oh
few
yeah, I could
days.
imagine. Of course, you're
Yeah,
saying the certain chemicals to wipe up areas that
yeah.
appear to not even have blood, but it was
Yeah, they
discovered
had they had
that
a whole warehouse that was just emptied literally in a few days, and they had to get more material and more, everything,
right.
suits, body suits, and gloves, and protective gear, and there's so many things that go into it. Bags, thousands and thousands of bags, and these are heavy duty bags, so that they're special for this type of use. So it was a lot of work. I mean, it was a lot of work, and they didn't stop until it was finished.
Right. Have you had any opportunity to speak with the families of some of these victims?
I met with some of them when I was there. Um, the army didn't want us to really interact with them too much because it was very, very sensitive time, and some of them came to get some belongings,
Oh
um,
yeah,
and it wasn't the right time to talk to them.
sure.
Um, but some that we did meet that did talk to us were so grateful. They couldn't, wherever we went, they were just blessing us as if we're some sort of tzaddikim or something.
Of course, of
We were
course.
just trying to do, we were just trying to do our work, and these people were, no matter who they were, religious, non-religious,
No, that didn't it
uh,
didn't matter. I mean,
we
you,
cared,
you
we cared. We didn't care who they were.
these
We
people were
didn't,
so desecrated
yeah,
and you brought honor to them, you and
right.
your team.
That's all
That's
we could
this.
do. And that was, I see it as, I was so lucky to be part of that.
Wow. Wow. Now, 1 year later, what is it like for you right now?
You never forget what you see. You can
You
never,
can't unsee it. I
yeah, you can't
understand
unsee
that.
it. You can't, it's not just seeing a bloody scene. It's
Right.
knowing the background behind it, what happened.
Yes.
Um, that's really that's where the trauma comes, and that's what I always tell people. It's not about you know seeing something so bad. It's about how did that happen. You know, if someone's in a car accident and there's blood everywhere, it's horrific.
Of course.
But if someone was tortured,
Of
it just makes it so much worse.
course.
You know,
To know they died that way.
yeah, it's horrific, and that's a traumatic part. It's the emotional part of what happened. And I still work through it, um, but I'm aware of it. And I get together sometimes with the guys. We'll talk about it. We'll hang out. You know, to make sure that you don't want to get closed up from it.
Right, right. So you talk about it because it helps to talk.
Yeah, it helps to process it. It helps to talk. It
Yes,
helps to
yes.
not to bring it to the surface and not let it get stuck somewhere. You're
Yeah,
just trying to block it out.
right, right. Having experienced physically being a physical witness to the atrocity, to the atrocities, the horrific atrocities, has that changed you in any way? Do you feel different
Oh,
now?
100%.
Yeah,
Yeah, because it changes you in a way where you saw evil that you've never seen before,
right.
and it changes you forever. We're not made to see these things,
No, no,
you know.
no. We're not made to see this. We're not made to experience this.
Yeah.
Is it hard for you to sleep?
Thank God, no. Some of the guys couldn't sleep. Some of them were having nightmares. I think I was so exhausted.
You just fell asleep from
Yeah,
exhaustion.
yeah, just from exhaustion. I didn't sleep much when I was there. I mean,
Right,
we went to sleep late. We went to sleep, let's say, at midnight and woke up at 5 a.m. I mean, and
right.
doing physical labor all day,
Yeah.
so it was no time to, like, when I got to the pillow, I was just unconscious. I mean,
What message would you like to give to the world, particularly those that don't believe what happened?
you know what I found with these things? The people who don't believe, they could see it with their own eyes and they'll still deny it because these non-believers, they'll come up with a way to prove. You can tell them the sky is blue and they'll say it's black or purple.
Yes, yes,
Some people are so lost, you could show it to them, it won't make a difference. But the people who are willing to listen and open their minds a bit, it happened. And there's no agenda here. We don't need to make up that it happened. We don't want this to happen. We don't even want to have
yeah,
the possibility of a thought to even make something up. I don't even know who would even come up with something like this.
hmm,
But
yeah,
this happened. It's not just some story. I saw it with my own eyes
yes, yes.
and I felt it. I felt the darkness and the people's broken hearts, and it wasn't just it was devastation.
This could never happen again. This should never, ever, ever happen again.
100%.
May the memories of those who were murdered so brutally, and may their memories be for a blessing.
Amen.
May God comfort the families of these victims. To our audience, Isaac can be reached at 845-642-6995, or by email, isaac@weissmanlawfirm.com. Isaac, thank you for joining us on the Definitive Wrap.
Thanks for having me.
And thank you to our audience for tuning in.
Next time it should be under better circumstances.
Amen.
Thanks for listening to The Definitive Wrap with your host, Bela Seabrow. Be sure to tell your family and friends they also can catch The Definitive Wrap on Apple Music, Spotify, Google Play, and your favorite streaming service. See you next time on The Definitive Wrap.